True Blue Nation. Dodgers Report.
Look, honestly, anyone who looks at Luis Robert Jr.'s raw numbers from 2025 and feels a chill down their spine isn't wrong, because paying $20 million for a guy who hit .223 and had an OPS of .661 seems like madness at first glance, but this is exactly where the magic of the Dodgers front office usually operates. And if you want to understand why Andrew Friedman would do this while TV only focuses on the obvious, go ahead and click to follow the channel right now, because we dissect the truth that no one else sees. So pay attention. We are talking about a generational talent who is undoubtedly undervalued in the market because of this endless sequence of left thigh injuries and muscle strains that turned a potential MVP into a medical question mark. But it is precisely this uncertainty that opens the door for the Los Angeles Dodgers to do what they do best, which is to take a distressed asset and turn it into pure gold. The Chicago White Sox are at a ridiculous crossroads. They exercised the $20 million option for 2026, but everyone knows they aren't going to compete right now, and holding on to Robert is asking for his value to drop even further if he gets hurt again, which throws all the leverage to our side. What leaves me intrigued and at the same time optimistic is the capacity of our medical and player development staff, because if we manage to keep this guy healthy, we are talking about an elite defender in center field who hits for power, and we know that Dodger Stadium needs that extra defensive coverage. The narrative that he is washed up at 28 years old is exaggerated. The physical talent, the bat speed, the ability to cover ground, all of that is still there. It's just buried under a layer of frustration and physical mismanagement that the White Sox allowed to happen. Think about it with me. The Dodgers don't need him to be the savior of the franchise. We already have enough stars to carry the load. What we need is for him to be that guy who hits 25 home runs and steals 25 bases, playing solid defense and taking him out of a losing environment in Chicago to put him in the middle of a winning culture changes an athlete's mindset. I see a lot of people complaining about the salary, but in a world where any average pitcher makes $15 million, paying $20 for an all-star production ceiling is a calculated risk that championship teams need to take, especially when the hole in center field is evident and the options on the free market are scarce or too expensive for mediocre returns. The crucial point here is the strategic alignment. The White Sox want to clear payroll, and we want to explode in October. So this stance makes sense, but the real question is what we are willing to sacrifice from our farm system to make this happen, because there is no such thing as a free lunch in this league. If you want to receive these exclusive analyses before everyone else and not be caught by surprise when the trade happens, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because here the news arrives fast and unfiltered. Now, the price of this game isn't cheap and hurts the heart of anyone who follows the farm system, because sending Jackson Ferris to Chicago is a very high bet, considering he was just the organization's pitcher of the year in 2024. But let's be realistic about what he is today. Ferris has electric stuff, his fastball hits 95 miles per hour with ease, and his slider makes professional batters look like amateurs, but that ERA of 5.52 in Double-A Tulsa in 2025 cannot be ignored and points to mechanical inconsistencies that might take years to correct, or maybe never will be. Selling Ferris now is selling high on perception, but perhaps low on statistics, which is the type of sell high move that Friedman loves to make when he knows something others don't, perhaps a concern about long-term arm durability, or simply the understanding that we have enough depth to absorb this loss. And it doesn't stop there, because including Mike Sirota in this package is what really sweetens the deal for Chicago, since we are talking about a guy with a fascinating trajectory coming from that Gavin Lux trade, and who turned into one of the most intriguing pieces of the system. But giving up two controllable prospects for an expensive veteran requires the White Sox to eat a slice of that salary. The information running behind the scenes is that Chicago would be willing to absorb between 8 and 10 million of the 2026 contract, which completely changes the math for us, lowering the impact on the luxury tax payroll and giving us flexibility to make other moves in the bullpen or the starting rotation before spring training. If the White Sox pay half the bill, the risk of Luis Robert Jr. becomes almost financially negligible, transforming this trade into a potential steal if he goes back to playing half of what he played in 2023. We are talking about filling an immediate gap with a player who has the highest ceiling of anyone available for trade in exchange for promises that, let's be honest, might never step on an MLB mound with consistency. The Dodgers are in win-now mode, not in 2028, and prospects are trade chips made exactly for moments like this, where you can bring in a guy who changes the dynamic of the game in the playoffs. Ferris and Sirota are talented, sure, but a healthy Luis Robert Jr. is a nightmare for opposing pitchers and locks down our outfield in a way that makes us absolute favorites. I prefer to see Ferris break out in Chicago 3 years from now than see the Dodgers fall in the division series again, because we lacked a decisive hit or a key defensive play in center field. Would you trade the uncertain future of two kids for the real chance of having an all-star in center field right now? Or is Robert's injury history a red flag that Friedman should respect before pulling the trigger?